Okay, here we're showing an example of a demand defrost right there. Let me get a little closer to it. Okay, this one has all the things that any defrost would have. There's a relay right here that's going to shut off the outdoor fan when it goes into defrost. And this plug here goes to the reversing valve and several other parts. So it can shift the reversing valve. Okay, we've got two probes coming off here. One of them's actually right here. That is the probe. That's an outside air temperature probe. So it's supposed to just detect the outside air. The yellow one, and I'll show you where it goes here in a minute. That one is to sense the coil temperature. Now, a little bit about the way these things work. The reason it goes into defrost is it takes this temperature here. It doesn't care what temperature it is. It cares what temperature it is compared to the one on the yellow one. That tells it when to go into defrost. So, if this one is reading a certain temperature and the yellow one is reading a lower temperature and it's low enough, that means there's too much temperature difference across the coil, which means there's ice in the coil. So it goes into defrost. I'm going to show you where that yellow one's mounted next. Okay, by following this yellow wire down, we can see where the other sensor's mounted. Now it goes right here, and it goes into this little tube. I'm going to pull that out of the tube so you can take a look at what's inside. Okay, and here's the other temperature probe here. It was just mounted inside that tubing right there. Okay, I'm going to take this whole thing off and we'll check these things out and see how they work. Okay, here we've got a little closer look at this thing. What I think is kind of important here is looking at these probes, maybe a little closer view of them. They're just a thermistor placed in the line. Now I'm going to pull both of those probes off, and we can note how the temperature changes with the resistance. Okay, if I take the probes and I go to either side of the temperature probe, I'm going to read 12.03, okay, 12 kiloohms. Okay? So that's going to change with temperature. Now, if you note, I put an incandescent lamp right here playing onto the probe, and you can see the probe is dropping as we go here. You start out around 12, and as it warms up, it's going down. Okay, if you're going to test one of these things out, you say it's frosting up, or it's not going into defrost, or something like that. One of the first things you can do is test the probes. You're going to have to use manufacturer's instructions to tell you what the resistance should be. In a pinch, I would take both of the probes and I would compare them if they're at the same temperature and see if they're the same. If they're reasonably close to each other, they're probably okay. But then you'll take one of them, you'll warm it up and see if it changes. Take the other one, warm it up, see if it changes. That's a quickie if you got if you don't have any factory specs to go by. These boards do fail. The sensors fail more commonly. Okay, looking close, I wanted to note here, there's a test for this thing. If you want to test to see if the operation is normal, you would take this wire, and you can see it says norm right there, put it in test, and it will go into defrost. When you're done, put it back in norm. If you leave it in test, it'll keep going in defrost. But that's a way to test that thing. You can test to see the reversing valve moves and be sure the fan shuts off and so on. So that's pretty much it for the demand defrost temperature difference defrost board. And this is pretty much the only thing left anymore. That's about all I use. I used to use a whole different bunch of different ones, but this is pretty much it now. Okay, demand defrost.